Welcome back to the show. If you just joined us, this is the Thursday edition of Good Morning Ghana, and it's time for our conversation with the Minerals Commission, and the CEO, Mr. Martin Ayisi, is here with me. Good morning, Martin.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm fine. I saw your kidney thing.
Yes.
The guy was saying, those of you who have blood pressure.
Yes.
Untreated blood pressure for a long time can trigger that. And I've been battling that for like 12 years.
But I'm sure that you're
I'm very careful.
on medication and all that. Okay. All right. Okay. So today we'll be speaking about green minerals. And I look at the papers and I think that I realized that that issue is on the front burner. Once again, I saw a few papers speak about it. I'm trying to get. Well, those were my papers. How come I can't see it again? I saw somewhere the minister speaking about. Yeah. Okay. I'm sure I'll find it. But the minister is supposed to have okayed. So it's here. It's actually here. Lands Ministry welcomes DML proposal on lithium exploration. And so we're speaking about the green minerals. We go back to what these green minerals are, and what is it to Ghana, and what do we have? Which green minerals do we have, in what quantities, and at which locations, and how are we going to take advantage of this particular one? But Chief, on Tuesday, I showed something here, and it is a Facebook post I saw on Sunday. And the photographs were taken on Sunday, and they had to do with the Black Volta. And immediately I saw it, I cringed. And I remember that in one of our conversations, you on Galamsey, you had also expressed worry about the Volta River, and even people wanting to prospect in the Afram Plains area. And it appeared at this point that the activities of illegal mining up north was manageable. Even last week when we spoke, it appeared that we're able to manage it more than the south. Then I saw this on Sunday, and this is supposed to be the Black Volta around the Bamboy area. And I was like, well, then this country is gone. So this is no longer the south.
Yes.
And it appears that the Volta Lake is the last lake standing. But this is what we're seeing.
I for sure I know whatever the case you ask this question.
Okay.
Randy, two things. I need to put the North in context.
Okay.
First, good morning to you and good morning to our viewers. What I was talking about small-scale mining in the North, the 5 regions, has to do with on the land, hard rock. I need to put that in context.
Okay.
So in Bole, a place called Klaf, Dakrupe. I mean, Bole is becoming a serious mining hub in this country. Tinga, Nanguruma, and Bongo. These are all underground workings for small scale. So I want you to understand that. And there's several of them, comparative to the stuff where many of them tend to be like open pits. Okay? There are one or two open pits in the north, but predominantly is underground. So environmental-wise, that is not as intrusive like the south. What we need to manage is the ventilation and the safety of how they get in down there.
Right.
So that is what I was trying to say, that's manageable. The water body is a different matter altogether.
Okay.
Now, I'm sure this Black Volta, it connects all the way from the north.
Yes, so this is the Bamboy area.
Yes, that was confirmed. So from, I think, Burkina Bagre Dam all the way and all those Black Volta.
Yes.
Ronnie, if you look at the data that we have, you see the area around the Bui Dam, You know that area is forest reserves.
Yes.
So even when they were building the time, there was this issue about hippos and all those wildlife there. But that's history now. Dollar power, the so-called dollar power, which is some thick forest in that area, practically inaccessible unless you go by, you drop from the heli or you go up to a point and then use these motorbikes. It's like no man's land. But I think the military is there now. They are constructing some road to give access so that they can assess the situation. We have the Ghana Boundary Commission that is working together with our brothers on the Ivorian side. This is the Bole Bamboy stretch. And let me say that it's just about starting.
So this is even the beginning?
Yeah, no, it's not the Milo kind of thing.
Okay.
I'm not here for a defensive thing.
Right.
I want to put out facts there because when we saw this, we know what is going on. The security agencies have done the intelligence.
Okay.
So what they are going to do is that I think they are just starting also to patrol the entire area. You see the Bui Dam area there, they have some boats that patrol the area. And this is about 330-kilometer stretch. So they're going to start patrol those areas. It's so difficult to get to this place. You can't get in.
Accessibility.
Now it's raining all over the place. So you can't enter. You cannot just ordinarily get there. You can get to the banks or whatever, but you can't because of the terrain, the topography, and the whole place. The only way you can get there is by boats. So all those boats are ready, and they will patrol. They will deal with it. Don't worry about that. It's just about starting. So those are chamfans in the water body itself, and we can joke with this.
And this is scary.
Yeah, that is it.
It's scary.
It will be sorted out. Yeah, so that I know of about 15 boats or so that are ready to move on that area. You can see the dam there. It's a national security issue. They will deal with it. Don't worry.
Now, so we see this.
There's a dam.
Yes. So this is the Bui Dam.
Yes.
Okay. So we see this. And the next thing we ask ourselves is, how many months will it take, for example, for us to start seeing this along the Volta Lake towards the south?
How many months?
Yes. I mean, we're seeing this. So, I mean, the apprehension is that it is coming closer. It's getting closer to us. We thought that at least what was happening was not going to get onto the Volta Lake.
What was getting closer?
Yeah. This. Once we see this.
Like the folks who have just put those kind of devices there to, if you like, dredge or mine.
Yes. And because, you see, when I saw this, then I remembered you speaking about people even wanting to prospect in the Afram Plains area, and the fact that you've not taken a decision yet. And then I said, look, the thing is just getting closer. It's getting too close for
Rani,
comfort.
let me tell you this.
Yes.
You see, I've just gotten evidence from my district inspectors, from 2 district officers in the Western region, that and they filed the reports because that's how we get to know that things are picking up here, things are going down here, or whatever. And some 2 districts, I'm told, their activities are dying down. Reason, because the security constantly go there. So you put in your structures, they get demobilized, and the belief was that, maybe they will come back in the next 3-4 months. They no longer do that. So the constant raid or patrol of that area has brought galamsey activities in that area. Has been able to bring it. I was shocked when my district officers told me this. Now, so this is what is going to happen. They will try to move to other areas. Because they behave like nomadic herdsmen. They will try to move because, you see, once you are being, it's like these armed robbers. If a particular area, the police is paying so much attention, they move. Either they lie low and then wait for a while and come back, or they move to other areas. So I'm not surprised that maybe some of them who have just being flashed out in other areas. I try to make incursions there. But this is something that we'll have to deal with, and they are going to deal with it immediately. I mean, this is not something we should joke with. Because if you're not careful, you can have several of them in it. And I think if the boats are ready, and a lot of work has been done, and then they'll just move. And this will require they using the speedboats to be moving on the water body. It will be dealt with, trust me. Fortunately, this is not in the space or sky or somewhere. And perhaps the likes of you and other people, whoever took the shot, can continue to monitor the situation and see whether it is this what we will see. I think it's in the Bole Bamboy stretch of the Black Water. That is the intelligence that I got. But I think they'll deal with it. That is it.
All right. So,
but it's a very difficult terrain. So the security people are putting everything together to make sure that this is not something we should joke with. They will deal with it. Trust me.
Okay. So let's come back to our issue today, green minerals. We've spoken about it before, but for purposes of recapping, and of course those who didn't watch us the other time, what are green minerals?
Randy, thank you. Some bit of education is required before we get into what the green minerals are. Once I do the initial introduction, then you really understand it. Like it or not, maybe I'll make reference to the Paris Agreement on Climate Change.
Okay.
We have come to accept the fact. Some people still disagree anyway, but that's their position. But I think there's this general consensus that the climate, the earth is becoming warmer, and that if we don't limit the surface temperatures to less than 2 degrees or don't keep it below 2 degrees, then you're going to wipe out the human race. Because then what you see is that sea levels will rise in the so-called global warming. And then you get low-lying areas being inundated or flooded. There will be catastrophic, effects on climate, droughts, floods, etc. So there has been several attempts by the international community to deal with this issue. So eventually, one of the hard decisions is that we got to do something and move away from some of the sources of energy that we use that are responsible for this problem. So petrol, fossil fuels generally, burning lots of coal, using a lot of crude oil for producing electricity and all those things. And then the vehicles we run on them, they emit a lot of gases. So then the argument is that we need to move away from fossil fuels to cleaner energy sources. Now the research has also shown that all these clean energy technologies, the components in them, the various elements or whatever that you need to manufacture them are nothing but minerals. So take a few statistics, for instance. UK says by 2030, they'll phase out internal combustion engines. So that means they will not have vehicles that will run on fuel or petrol or whatever. I hear a third of the vehicles in UK now are electric vehicles. In the case of EU is 2035. So EU is 12 years from now, if my math is right. UK is just 7 years away. Now, US says by 2030, again 7 years, they want about 50% of their vehicles to be electric cars. I mean, this is 300 million plus population. Then also you have China. China has the biggest car market in the world. They are also saying that in 7 years' time, that is by 2030, about 40% of new car sales should be electric. So then it's all an attempt to make sure that, look, we adopt cleaner sources of energy. So essentially, renewable energies, solar panels, wind turbines, and a host of other things. Then it just dawned on everybody that the components, the things that you use in making them, are nothing but these minerals. So by adopting them, and that's why they call it green. We are basically going green. That is it. Rather than continue to reduce our carbon footprint, rather than continue to burn coal, use what do you call it, fossil fuels like petrol and coal. Let's go green. And because going green will require clean source of technology that rely on these minerals, so they call them green minerals. Some also call them energy transition minerals, because you are transitioning from fossil fuel-based energy to renewables. Some also call them critical minerals, that they are so critical to ensure that, look, we move towards this new lifestyle. And then I've even seen some also being described as technology minerals. Why? Because the mobile phones you are holding, flat screen monitors, fiber optics, and all this, stuff that we use every day in our homes, they are all from these minerals. So that is it. And also, again, you need them in defense, aviation, even healthcare, and telecommunications. So it's like our whole life depends on this. So energy transition minerals, green minerals, critical minerals, etc. More often than not, what is common is the term critical. It tends to be more common than the other say critical minerals or energy transition. Critical because, one, they are critical to making sure that we keep our commitment to the Paris Agreement, 2 degrees or less. And then it's also vital that particularly in the West, their defense, telecommunication, all these critical areas for lifestyle, they need these things. Their worry is the fact that when I show you a few statistics, you see that just a few countries dominate the state of play. So 75%, for instance, if you take, I'll give a few examples of these minerals. So lithium, nickel, cobalt, vanadium, lead, zinc, copper, almighty copper, because the charging stations and all those solar panels. And a couple of rare earths, manganese, all these things, high purity aluminium, all these are all examples, of the green minerals. By far, the popular one is lithium. Now, it will interest you to know that about 75% of the world's lithium, the reserves, are just found in 3 countries. The so-called lithium triangle, Argentina, Chile, and Bolivia. That's it, 75. And lithium comes primarily from 2 sources. The one in the Latin America, which I've just mentioned, is just these salt flats or brine. So they pump them and then use sunlight to concentrate them in these huge evaporation ponds. The rest of us is hard rock, like Australia, Ghana, and co. That is it. But production-wise, about half of the current lithium that is produced in the world comes from Australia. Australia produces about 50%, and then Chile about 25%. So about a little over 70% of the lithium now is coming from 2 countries. China, that's primary to produce the raw material, lithium. China has about just 8% of the world's reserves. They produce about 13% of the lithium concentrate. Guess what? Over 70% of the downstream activities, the cathode and then the battery cells and things that are used to do all those things, China dominates. Just one country.
So it means
so that's why the West is so scared. They are rushing around signing all kinds of international protocols or agreements, EU. I saw EU with Argentina. I saw US Inflation Reduction Act, where they will give incentives. So they are targeting certain countries. They know where these things come from. So they are trying to be nice to some of the countries and have all kinds of agreements. Other than that, for now, China is ahead. I have my doubt if the rest of us can catch up.
So let me understand the
value
data,
chain.
the data on China. You say that they have 8%
of the reserves. And currently produces 13%.
Does it mean that they're focusing a lot on value addition?
That is it.
Okay.
That's the downstream. The cell, okay, the batteries, all those things. And even the West is moving there, Tesla and co. And then China is also cutting deals with all kinds of countries. So Chile, for example, has the largest reserves in the world. Currently, they are just doing, about 25% or so in terms of production. Don't confuse being the largest, holding the largest reserve and being the biggest producer. For example, the largest reserves of uranium in the world is in Australia, but they are not the biggest producer. It's Kazakhstan. So the two are not the same. So China is making a lot of inroads, signing all kinds of deals, okay, with Chile and the other countries. They do that a lot. Everybody is trying to strategize. So currently they are producing 13% of the concentrate. Their reserves, 8%. But then over 70 plus the value chain, the downstream. Okay, when you produce the lithium, there's something they call spodumene. You have to put it in a chemical plant to produce either the hydroxide or the carbonate, which you use as a raw material to produce the batteries and all those things. So the chemical plants to turn the raw material, which is a spodumene, around the concentrate, that is where they dominate. And even the batteries, the cells, and all those things, overwhelmingly 70% plus, one country. And they are actually galloping. They are trying to grab raw materials all over the world. And you know how the Chinese do their things, trade deals, they give you loans, they sign deals, they come with projects and all those things. So they are moving at the pace that even the West, that requires all these things, cannot catch up. It's quite scary, the Chinese dominance of the value chain.
All right, so where do we stand in all of this?
Okay, maybe I have to start by saying that what do we have? Okay, what do we have? If you look at all these minerals I've mentioned, what is it that potentially we have in Ghana or can be found or we've discovered? Yes, one, geology-wise, we are very prospective for lithium.
Lithium?
Yes, so lithium, we found lithium. There's a place around Ewoya, Abonko, that's in the Mfantsiman municipality. That's the biggest we found so far, the main one. After 6 years of exploration, we found it, world-class, solid. It's quite a big thing. That is one. That whole central region stretch, or potentially, is prospective for lithium. Then some parts of eastern region, it goes to Ashanti, then Bunon. The other day, I had some area in Greater Accra, and then...
Which area?
I'll not mention that for now. Because I've seen people pitching camp.
I see.
Then the beds go all the way through Savannah, okay? Then Upper East and Upper West. It's found in certain types of rock formation. The geologists will tell you. So the country holds a huge potential. For now, it's only one major discovery. Others are also doing a lot of work. So in just some years or so, we'll see more discoveries. So that is one, lithium. Then we have graphite. At least a third of the battery components comes from graphite. What reminds me of graphite is when we were in school, they said they use it to make lead in pencil.
Right.
Yes, I didn't know that it's a critical component of the battery. The outskirts of Wa.
Wow.
Yes, there's a company that had picked a prospecting license for good over the years. Then, when they are, this is because of technology, when they are looking for a particular mineral, they explore others too. So you see some people, they will apply and they say, go to another minerals. Then they were beginning to see graphite. So the results were looking very good. So now they are concentrating on that. So very soon we'll see graphite in commercial quantities. So yes, lithium, graphite. Then there are also, of course, we have manganese. There's one in Insuta. Then if you go to Savannah, in Treso, Waka Waka, Selipe, that area too, a lot of exploration is going on, but the same Ghana manganese. Then some areas in western region, eastern, or hold prospect for manganese. Then our geology shows that Oti, where I come from, holds a lot of prospects for lead, zinc, copper, and then cobalt. So these are by far some of the things that we can see in Ghana. A lot of work is required. A lot. You need to take your time, do a lot of exploration. So Geological Survey, Minerals Commission, and other private sectors are coming to see. You got to run the survey properly. But for now, these are the ones. So there's one manganese mine, there's one bauxite mine. Then very soon, maybe within a year or so, we'll see another mine for lithium.
Those ones have been with us. I mean, we've known about manganese and bauxite.
Yes. But then there are other areas that have been explored. For example, the whole Ninani area, it's all bauxite.
Yes.
Etiwa. These are the next frontiers.
The forest reserves.
Of course, the forest
Because there's a
reserve,
huge, there's a
forest-
huge fight with the environmental.
Yes,
people.
it's everywhere. I mean, this environmental thing is everywhere. I've made mention of the Carmichael project. It's in Queensland, Australia. It's going to churn out about 100 million tons of coal to be shipped to India. And it took about 15 years or so to get the environmental permit. The environmentalists have been complaining about the Great Barrier Reef. So it's everywhere. Keystone Pipeline, okay? The fight between Democrats and then Republicans. One comes to stop it. One comes to say, let's get on with it, just to take crude from the heavy sands in Canada all the way to US.
Right.
So the environmental issues, it will be with us for the rest of our life. You just have to do it very well. Then I think what the public is interested in knowing is, what are we going to do to our lithium? Is it going to go out raw, like what we've been doing to gold, bauxite, and manganese for years? Randy, the average price of the raw lithium, the so-called spodumene, it's just roughly about 4,000 thereabout now, dollars a ton. If you put a concentrate in a chemical plant, you're talking about anything close to about 40,000 US dollars. So you need about 8 to 10 times the concentrate to get 1 ton of the hydroxide or the carbonate. And I think it's about 10 times the price. Anything between 10 and 15 times the price if you take it raw. So making sure we encourage the downstream activities here so that this concentrate is refined here is critical for all of us. We cannot take something out for $3,000 or $4,000 for somebody to go and put in a chemical plant and sell it for about close to $40,000. So that is very important. So that is it. And we are working hard. So very soon we'll announce some policy measures and initiatives as to how to deal with all these green minerals. It is not going to be business as usual. You cannot be sending these things raw forever. But of course, we should also be very careful. We got to get the economics also right. The fact that you found something, it doesn't mean that, because you see, we got to be patient. If it will cost me 5 cedis to turn the thing around and process it here, okay? But it will be cheaper for me to bring the raw material from outside. Then the person will tell you, then let me bring it from outside. You got to get the economics right, because you see, ask yourself, so if we found, let's say, 200 or 300 tons of lithium, okay, that the person will produce in a year, then you have to ask yourself, what will it take to build a chemical plant? Is it going to cost $500 million? You have to do the economics. Then the question is very simple. If it is going to cost me more to turn the spodumene or the concentrate to produce the hydroxide or carbonate than taking it outside raw, then it will not be something. So we should be looking at, let's say, for example, do we need to give incentives to have a chemical plant to make it feasible? All those things have to be discussed. So sometimes when people say, oh, make sure it doesn't go out raw, yes, we get that. But then you also have to get economics right, because if, for example, it will cost the person $100 million, and then it tells you that to be able to process this thing, it will not be economic unless I get certain incentives. So let's say, are you going to reduce the cost of producing the power I'm going to use, or give me certain incentives, reduce the tax for me? Then the question we have to ask ourselves is that, if I'm going to give you incentives that maybe reduce power, reduce corporate tax, I'm just having a general discussion because nothing has come out yet. And then the state will lose, let's say, $50 million by giving incentives for somebody to turn the concentrate into hydroxide or carbonate. Then you have to ask yourself, what will be the multiplier effect of doing that? Are we going to make 3, 4, 5 times if the thing is done here and we give incentives for the plant to set up here? Then the argument is, yes, it makes sense for you to do that. Okay? But then if you're going to give incentives and then what will come out will be far less than you giving the incentives, then you could as well not do it. And sometimes people also say, oh, take your time, etc. Yes, you need to take your time, but you also need to get the project economics right. Randy, because of the security of supply, okay, I've just told you 70% of the downstream activity is dominated by just one country, a country that the West fears so much when it comes to trade issues. And then if you have one or two of the minerals being also produced in one country. For example, cobalt, at least 60% or more comes from DRC. That is a cause to worry because in the West they see it as a country that is not safe. So the source may be threatened, okay? And then if you have about 2-3 countries controlling where these things come from, they are afraid of cartelization, nationalization. So they get worried. So in US, in Japan, in Korea, they are spending billions on developing substitutes. I've seen, UCLA, the one in San Diego, trying to see whether they could develop batteries from sodium, okay? Seawater and all those. The Koreans are doing, and so what they are doing basically is that the ones that they have supply issues, one, few countries are producing them. They are not friendly to us. It raises security concerns, so threats to the supply chain. Then they'll say, okay, if this one is so common, you can get it everywhere. This one, 3-4 countries control it. Fear of nationalization of disrupting supply chain. Can we get other substitutes? So you see all kinds of combination. Some manganese, some cobalt, some nickel. They try to reduce it. So they're also trying to look at recycling. Others are also trying to see, can we do more of this through substitutes? So sometimes, if you say, oh, let's take our time, before you realize your mineral has become useless. I mean, look at Saudi. They are so scared. The Middle East people, they are so scared. Because you see, I have just chanced on the data which says a third of the electric vehicles now. Try and read that one. EV volumes. It's a Swedish-based consultancy group.
Right.
About a third of the vehicles in UK now. EV
volumes.
Yes. Okay. Electric vehicle volumes. There's a lot of information there. If we are being told that UK, a little over 60 million, a third of the vehicles are electric. Now they said in 7 years' time, everything, the whole of European Union, 2035. It means that they will be importing less gas and so those of you who produce petrol, gas, and all those things, your economy is threatened. So the earlier you get whatever you are getting from it to diversify, the better for you. So you see Saudi launching ambitious, industrialization drive. So these are 10, 15 million barrels or so they produce a year. Very soon, nobody will be buying. So at least there are some components of the industrialization drive that will no longer be relying on this or fossil fuel. So it is something we should take note of. So if the argument is that take your time before you realize you've been overtaken by recycling substitutes, and then what you should have developed 4 or 5 years ago is no longer needed. Okay? But again, that's also not to say that you should also rush and take it out raw. But then to make sure that you refine a raw product, you must also get the economics right. So if the guy comes to tell you that, look, yes, you have it, I found it, it will cost me $1 billion to produce the raw material. If I have to sell it, if I look at the project economics, then nobody will buy, because on the wet market, maybe it is 5 cedis. But what I'm going to produce, if I want to churn it into the raw, into the finished product, it will cost me 10 cedis. So then you have to start talking about incentives. Where do you tackle? Is it to reduce the power? Is it to reduce the corporate tax for him? Or to say, look, 1D, 1F, so I'm giving these incentives. Then again, you have to ask yourself, if I'm doing all these things for you, that's about maybe $80 million a year. What is the multiplying effect? Oh, it will be $200, $400 million. Then it makes sense to do it. So these are the kind of things government is discussing now. And very soon, the minister will come out.
I'm reading a story, and it's a bit confusing. Anytime we speak on this issue on Thursdays, you highlight the role of the Geological Service Department.
Yes.
And the money or the support that is required, and what has started now in terms of provision of resources for them. On this lithium, I'm reading a story where there appears to be a private company that is sent a proposal to government, the ministry, and has made a presentation. And they want the state to virtually fund geological and mineral mappings of lithium across the country. How come?
Oh, Randy, it's a proposal. You know, Ghana is big. Let me tell you this. The entire Volta Basin, when we say Volta Basin, it's not our Volta region. All the areas that are drained by the Volta together with tributaries. The entire 5 northern regions in Ghana, Upper East, Upper West, Northeastern, Savannah, Northern region. okay, it's not been properly mapped. Practically, the data there is scanty. We've concentrated on in the south. OT, for example, not well mapped. Even in the south, okay, I've seen my geologists and geological survey tell me that even in the entire south, we need to map the whole area again because the data is old and there's technology. I mean, minerals we couldn't mine, or even gold, we couldn't mine years back. Now we are mining them because of technology. Technology has made it very easy to extract certain minerals. There are some types of gold you cannot touch because it's so expensive. This is a technology, the so-called sulfides. You see the hand. So if the budget is, let's say, $1 billion, where are you going to get that kind of money from? Okay? It means that every year you have to be giving something to geological survey. It's so expensive to fund this thing. So there's nothing wrong in encouraging, let's say, private participation. And say, you come in, maybe look at 100 square kilometers or so of this part of Ghana. You'll be supervised by geological survey. The data will be asked. When you finish, you hand over. You work with geological survey. It's not as if they will leave you on your own. It's done in many countries. And let me tell you, and then after that, we'll say, okay, we might give you perhaps the right of first refusal to get a few blocks or so to either take off how much you spent, or you give the data to us, the government will pass it out and give it to people, and then they pay you back. Because, make no mistake, it costs a lot of money to do this thing. And by far, that is the success story of Equatorial Guinea. They made companies come in. They will come and shoot the seismic data, do everything at no cost to government. After that, they give you the data. So when oil companies can, they say, go and buy the data. So by so doing, they get their money back. Two, at least you get to know what is there, so you can negotiate better. You see it. So this kind of concept has been around for ages. Equatorial Guinea uses it for oil, and a lot of countries do it. Other than that, then the decision is okay, Geological Survey will have to present a budget of $200 million or $500 million. Or they will say, okay, we got to map the whole of Ghana for certain types of minerals. Maybe let's start from OT. We're going to look for cobalt, nickel, vanadium, zinc, whatever. It may cost us maybe $100 million to do it over 2-3 years or in stages. Government of Ghana, give me money. Can you get the money?
But apart from financial capacity, does the Geological Survey Department not have the capacity to do this?
They have the capacity for certain types of equipment. But Randy, you are just showing me this kidney thing. Some of our professors at Kolebu, at Confanoche, I'm trying to use this to explain it, were trained in some of the finest medical schools in the world. You have doctors at Kolebu, at CAT 37, who went to Harvard Medical School, who went to Oxford and all those things. So basically, he sat in the same classroom with the same white man who was exposed to the same technology. He has come back here. What do? You use equipment to undertake surgery.
Yes.
These days, you are told they can even put your body in certain equipment, 2 hours, you come out, they print everything, then they can tell that, potential in the next 2-3 years, you are at the risk of cancer, so take the following steps. It's the same thing here. So they have a rig. But then you see, to go out in the bush there, you go with vehicles. You need fuel. If you take the rock samples, you have to take it to the lab, SGS. Sometimes some of the things you are looking for, you have to take it to US or Australian labs to go and do the analysis. It costs a lot of money. For instance, why is it that the mining companies have been saying that the cost of doing exploration in Ghana is far higher than our regional peers? Reason, because our 70% of exploration cost is from assaying, and there's VAT on it. So he's telling you that if it will cost 5 cedis to do exploration, 10 blocks of tenements or land in Ghana, maybe 3 times less in Ivory Coast. So the probability
that's because of our taxes.
Yes, the probability that the Ivorian people will come out quickly with minerals to go into that area is far higher. You understand? And so assaying is nothing but simply taking the rock samples to the lab to go and test them. Sometimes you have to take them outside because the labs don't have the technology to look for certain kinds of information. That's a lot of money. So Geological Survey can go and map the whole of OT, pick the rock sample. Why are you taking it? SGS. Sometimes you have to take it US, South Africa, or Canada. Who is going to pay for it? That's money. So the budget for the survey includes who you have to pay for the samples. You got to go out to the field there. You need to use certain types of equipment. These things cost a lot of money. So if then you have to, and I remember I said this is what we didn't do for 34 years. That's how come 4 or 5 regions of illegal mining. Now you're talking about 12, 13. So if the Geological Survey presents a budget of $200 million to government now, government perhaps will say maybe I can get 5. Start small. Okay? Substitutes are being developed. Nobody is waiting for you. So let private sector come in, okay, and supervise them, and then we can give them the right of first refusal to get 1 or 2 blocks. The rest we take it and then negotiate better. But other than that, it will be the business as usual where anybody comes in.
If you do a cost-benefit analysis, won't it perhaps lead you to a point where it will make sense to say commit a certain percentage of your proceeds from the same mining activities into equipping the Geological Survey Department to be able to do that work for you?
They do that. If you go to some countries now, they even charge you and say, give us a certain percentage of this thing, we use it to fund training.
Yeah.
They do that a lot. But then that takes time. Do you understand that? As I said, government has now come out now to equip the Geological Survey. But the kind of money that's involved to map the entire country is billions of dollars. It is not chicken feed.
You are a technocrat, so I don't want to take you on that path.
Yes, so I understand this thing. So I ask myself, if I need $500 million to fix roads in 5 regions, okay, maybe I can afford to give Geological Survey $5 million. Let them concentrate on small scale or 1 or 2 areas. Then the other $200 million, why won't you bring a private sector to come and shoot? Do all the survey, you supervise them, get the data and say, okay, Randy, for your troubles, I'll give you 1 or 2 blocks, the rest is mine. Then now, listen carefully, Randy, you have data now. Let's say in OT, you can now go and negotiate better contracts. And then the other gentleman, you've also paid him off. Because you either let them do it, you give them some blocks, or they do it, they bring it to you, then you sell it to other people. So that is it. And it's a common practice, it's not new. Other than that, cough up the $200 million, the $300 million that they require to do a proper work. Okay, these days they even take this satellite view of the whole area. So they'll like the way they call it seismic for oil and gas. They'll run the whole thing here. So this studio, just to know that, apparently the occurrences or the anomalies are around where you and I are sitting, not this whole place. So you don't do a wild goose chase. Then now, you now come to the ground proper here and do the so-called pitting, trenching, and the drilling, okay, to really define the reserves. It's a lot of money. You know, the Atlantic Region people, when I show you how much they spend on 6 years of exploration for that project, it's about $50 million or so, just one project, okay? Some are 50, some are 60, some exploration are running to $100 million. We check these things. So if one project, the person spends $50 million, you think $50 million cannot provide road or light or water or some science lab for some public school, when you can give, let's say, $1 million to research Geological Survey, the other $40 million, let somebody come and do it. Then you get data, better informed, you negotiate better, and then give in some bits. This is common. This is not the first. So it all depends on the term.
So like I said, you are a technocrat.
Yes,
so
that is it. It's not new. I mean,
I will restrict my questioning to your line. If you were a politician, I would have taken a different.
Why?
Angle. Yeah, because there's the issue of opportunity cost, the issue of prioritization, there's the issue of many things that we spend our money on, and whether it will even make sense to spend more on this because of what potentially will come out of that, rather than using the argument of competing demands, roads, and all that.
Yes.
Because
Randy,
even with the existence of those competing demands, we are spending money on all manner of things.
Yes, but Randy, I agree. Yeah. There may be competing demands. Yeah. As I said, these are the very reasons why 34 years, since 89 to now, we didn't explore the other regions to be able to get mineable areas for the small scale. And now, we are now swallowed by this 13 region thing. No problem. But you see, the cost involved is not chicken feed.
Yes.
It's not chicken feed. Even to explore OT alone, OT is our 9 constituency. To get up and say Geological Survey, go and look for lead, zinc, copper, cobalt, lithium, which we think potentially may exist there. It costs a lot of money. A lot of money. So if you can have alternatives, maybe as a nation, all these years since independence or Nkrumah time, perhaps we should have been in little by little. Like by now, we'll have perhaps mapped the whole of Ghana. And some of the technologies, we don't have it. These days, you have to take the satellite thing first to give you indications.
I say these things just because of some of the things that we've seen in this country when it comes to private participation. I am a private sector person. I don't have a problem. But I think that there's a certain deficit of trust on the basis of lack of candor and transparency and all that. I'll give you an example of, let's say, the Temamoto way, where the same argument, looking at how much money is needed to do the motorway, we perhaps do not have the money to cough up all that. So let's look for private sector participation so they can bring in the money
and toll it.
Bring the money and toll it and do it. That's how we started it. We ended up picking a company that is unable to bring 1 cedi, and we are going to use our money to do that same project, which is over $500 million, and give it to the same foreign company. So the objective for that whole exercise that was started is not how we are ending it. And that's why I said that, because you're a technocrat, I don't want to get into those areas with you. But
you are comparing apples
no, I'm
and
just
oranges.
saying that when the apprehension is expressed and the doubts are raised, it is on the basis of some of these things. That's just the point I'm making.
Okay, I understand you, but then this is a different sector altogether. It's a different sector altogether. If it's not easy to say, government, give me $500 million. That's a lot of money.
True.
$500 million is a lot of money in Ghana. Okay? Yes, I know. You got it. So if there could be other alternatives, somebody say, look, I can come in and do it, and there are success stories all over the world. I've just mentioned Equatorial Guinea. That I am aware of because I happen to study oil and gas law too. That's how they did it. A company that showed up and said, hey, Equatorial Guinea government, I have the technology, I have everything. Let me shoot this place for you. I'll do everything at my cost. Then I'll come back to you. So they came back and say, hey, Equatorial Guinea government, here is the data. This is how prospective you are. This is how much it costs. So now armed with that, Equatorial Guinea says, anytime they are doing licensing, they said, you have to come and buy the data first. So they make money. And they pay those guys who did the survey or who did the work. And then now, from nothing to now, they can look into your face and tell you, Randy, this one, even you got to put in some money. Okay? We call it signing bonus or whatever. We are going to take $100 million. Now, these are attempts. They are able to boldly tell you that and negotiate better deals because they know what they have. How did they do it? Those private companies that came in and did the work. It's the same thing, so it's not new. You just have to make sure that they are properly supervised at Geological survey. Because you see, data is the nuclear weapons of this century. So that is it. It looks simple, but it's a lot of money. Okay? And then sometimes we are our own enemies. When you tell us, you see the Ghanaians who have persevered, they are the ones that are now smiling. If you tell somebody, oh, give me $2-3 million or let's go and do this exploration, he will tell you, if I go and get some land in Cantonment and put up real estate, I can get these expatriates to come and rent it and I'll make a lot of money. So why do you complain? You see, you see people come here, pick up and license, and then go on stock exchange in Vancouver. The Vancouver Stock Exchange has listed more money companies than any other stock exchange in the world. And then they raise $2-3 million. People have that kind of money in this country. But if I go and tell a businessman now, this project, I need $5 million to do exploration for 3 years. Can you be funding little by little? You tell no. I can go and buy land at Cantonment for $5 million and put up a lot of executive apartments and things, and I'll make more money than that, and that's for life. So perhaps this kind of education is changing people's mind. And now, trust me, people are getting into money big time. Gone were those days when Ghanaians pick up licenses, take a few $50,000 or $10,000 and then leave it. No. These days they are spending money to do exploration. Some of the lithium projects and some of the gold projects now, Ghanaians are doing themselves. They've come together because they realize that the thing is quite lucrative. But of course, the fancies will tell you, use a fish to catch a fish. So that is it. As far as these critical minerals are concerned, energy transition minerals, critical minerals, technology minerals, etc. Everything around us. There is nobody in this world, including Ghana here, who in a day has not come into contact or used anything that cannot be traced to minerals. So that is it.
All right. So thanks, Martin. It's been enlightening as always, and I'm sure that next week we'll continue.
All right.
With our discussions. Thanks a lot. And are you on Original FM this week?
No, it's past Tuesday.
Past Tuesday.
Next week I may not be available.
Okay.
I'm going for a program. So the other week I'll make it.
All right. So thanks as always. And thanks for watching.